In this video, we'll review the Code of Ethics from the Project Management Institute, and then at the end, follow the steps for ethical decision-making. First, the PMI Code of Ethics. The vision of the practice is that practitioners of project management will follow and commit to doing what is right and honest, and that will ask others in the practice to also follow. The Professional Code of Ethics articulates the ideas for the profession. It sets the standard for the way we should behave and the way we believe others in the practice should also behave. PMI members have determined that honesty, responsibility, respect, and fairness are the values that drive ethical conduct for project management. These values reflect many of the personal values we suggested earlier that we should all strive for. PMI's Code of Ethics and Professional Conduct applies those values to the real-life practice of project management, where the best outcome is the most ethical one. Who does the code apply to? First, all members of the Project Management Institute. Second, all non-members who hold a PMI certification, are applying for certification, or who serve PMI in a volunteer capacity. Now, let's review the 4 values covered in the code. In the code itself, each value is divided into aspirational standards, or conduct we strive for, and mandatory standards, or firm standards that we must follow. Today, we're not going into that level of detail, but we're just going to hit the high points and really look at what we should, as project managers, ought to be doing in terms of ethics. The first value is responsibility. Responsibility is the duty to take ownership of decisions we make or fail to make, actions that we take or fail to take, and any consequences associated with these actions. As part of our responsibility, we must make decisions and take actions based on the interests of society, public safety, and the environment. We should accept only those assignments consistent with our background, experience, skills, and qualifications. This implies more than just accepting assignments that we're not qualified for. It means not accepting assignments where we do not have the experience to implement them correctly. Further, we must protect confidential and proprietary information and safeguard it so that we do not give a competitive advantage to others or betray a trust. We must fulfill our commitments. If we commit to something, we must follow through and act on our commitments. We must be trustworthy. Finally, we're obligated to report any ethical violations to the appropriate authorities. The next value in the PMI standard is respect. As the name implies, it involves showing respect for others. In order to do this, we should inform ourselves of the values and customs of all of those we're dealing with and avoid behaviors that might be considered disrespectful. This is particularly important in this global world in which we operate today. We should listen to others' points of view, consider them, and seek a common understanding. We should approach conflicts directly and seek to resolve them. We should negotiate in good faith, and we should not use our position in project management to take unfair advantage of others. And we should respect the property rights of others. In terms of fairness, it's our duty to make decisions impartially and objectively. Our decisions should be free of self-interest, prejudice, and favoritism. We should provide equal access to all information to all those who should have it. And we should provide equal opportunities to all qualified candidates. We must disclose any conflicts of interest, and we must recuse ourselves from making any decision-making where there's a real or perceived conflict of interest, unless we have a plan to mitigate the effects of this perceived conflict and we get the approval of all the affected stakeholders. Honesty is our duty to understand the truth and act in a truthful manner in our communication and also in our conduct. Further, it is our duty to make promises and commitments in good faith and to create an environment where others feel comfortable in telling the truth. If you'd like a copy of the entire code, I'd recommend you visit the PMI website. Next, we want to review the steps in ethical decision-making. These steps are very similar to the steps in any problem-solving approach. They include, first, determine all the facts by obtaining all the unbiased information possible. Second, define the stakeholders or those with an interest in the outcome. And then assess the motivation of these stakeholders by using communication techniques and personality assessments to determine what their motivations might be. After we have all this information, we should formulate solutions, potential solutions based on the most complete information available and using basic ethical core values as a guide. After we've put several solutions on the table, we should evaluate these proposed solutions. We should shortlist only the ones that are ethically correct. These may be a potential choice between two or more totally ethical solutions, in which case we need to evaluate those. And then select the best course of action, one which satisfies the most of the core ethical values and provides value to everyone in the process. After we've nominated a solution, we should seek additional assistance. We should turn to the Engineering Code of Ethics, previous cases, peers, and rely on our personal experience to determine, are these solutions acceptable? Once we've picked the solution we want to implement, we should implement that solution. It's not enough to act morally, but we must also put those actions into action. At the end of the day, we need to monitor and assess the outcome so that we can note how to improve the next time. So far in this lesson, we have defined ethics and explored sources of ethical values, discussed potential values that might be of value, talked about benchmark social norms such as the Professional Code of Ethics and Organizational Code of Ethics. And we've reviewed one professional code of ethics provided by the Project Management Institute. And we finally followed the steps for ethical decision-making. It's finally time to make a decision. How do we know if we're going to make an ethical decision? First, if you're unsure about the right thing to do, don't take action. Instead, step back and consider these questions. Have I checked with the law department or some other subject matter expert to check what I've done? Have I consulted with someone who's faced this situation before and try to understand what they did? Is the decision in line with my core ethical values and my organizational values? What would my mother say? How would I feel if I read it in the newspaper? And finally, how would I feel if I was on the other side of the decision? Would I still view this as a fair action? If you're still in doubt, start the decision-making process over again. Gather more information. Check with more people. Consider more options. Remember, ethics is about making the best possible decisions about the people, resources, and the environment. And it's worth the time to get it right, and good ethical decisions will always pay off in the long run.